Still do 7 NUFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications options. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe. And it feels alright when the worlds collide. Manipulation stands to make us break. What's that you said is coming over you? You're wishing upon a star. You're wishing it on a star. You are, you are, you are. You fight back, it's an all-out attack. It feels like I've been taken on the world's machine. Because I want it more than anyone can dream. You look back and it's all in the past. You tell me how you live by all the things you do. Well, you can be yourself, but maybe I'm not you. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all.
Well, good morning. Here we are on Those Were the Days on NUFC Matters with George. Usually a pre-record, but with this being the last one and being an up-to-date, bringing everything up to date with the end of last season, we thought we'd do it live so people could have a little bit of interaction with George. Morning, George.
Morning, Steve. It's great. It's great.
Yeah, good to see you, mate. Good to see you. We haven't been able to do this because this has been a filler, really, for the channel over the years since we started doing it. But yeah, I can't believe we're actually caught up. It's amazing, and it's a hell of a testament to you, because obviously the research that you've had to do, on the internet and getting the programs and all of that. It's been a wonderful experience for I guess for the viewers. And although it's not the most viewed podcast, it'll stand the test of time, because people will often watch this in the future and just go, wow, that guy did a hell of a lot of work to make this show happen.
Yeah, it's been a huge pleasure, I've got to say, from lots of points of view, but not least because I don't think anybody needs to be told. I bleed black and white, so going back and looking. And I've gone even further back. I've prepared stuff for the 50s Cup finals if ever we decide to do something about them. So yeah, it's been great. And when I look back when we started, my goodness, and I look on my laptop where I store all the files, and I've got the files for each of the programs on there. It's staggering. It's staggering. But I made use of other black and white heroes like Biffer and people like that who produced all the statistics and made use of their stuff as well. So yeah, it's been great. I've enjoyed every minute of it, and I'm only glad to do it. It's to give something back, as it were. So there you are.
Great stuff. All right. So at the end of the last episode, we were building up to the semi-final, I believe, George. Is that right?
Yes, we just had the miserable defeat at home against Fulham, which they saddened people, including me. We wondered what was coming next, but I'm sure, like along with others, realised that this second semi-final against Arsenal at home could lead us to great things. And not only that, if we were to pick up our league form, the potential to make a dent in the league position as well was also there. So it's the potential from now on is just great. So you're right. The next game is the return leg of the semi-final against Arsenal. And I find it incredible, even after the way we demolished them. I mean, I sometimes over the last couple of seasons have had issues about Eddie's change in tactics and so on. But on this one, he got it spot on. At the Emirates, we give them the ball and we beat them easily. 2-0, it could have been 3 or more, even though we only had 20-odd% of the ball. And even now, with a 2-0 win and playing the second leg at home, the Southern press couldn't see Arsenal losing. I'm reading bits in the Southern papers about, well, Arsenal only need one goal and Newcastle will collapse and all that rubbish. Well, sorry, guys, it didn't work out like that because it was another master stroke by Eddie. So here we go with the return leg at St James's Park on the 5th of February. A beautiful night and a beautiful game, to be perfectly honest. We full house, of course, 52,200, and Arsenal came with their strongest team, obviously. Ria, Lewis, Skelly, Magalhaes, Saliba, Timber, Rice, Partey, Odegaard, Trossard, Havertz, and Martinelli. And Eddie played almost unchanged team: Dubravka, Hall, Trippier, Byrne, Botman, Shaw, Guvaresh, Tonali, Murphy, Gordon, and Isak. And it was just another performance. Tactical masterstroke by Eddie Howe. Arsenal again smothering the ball as much as they could. But the important thing was that they were smothering it in midfield. Any attacking moves were quickly quashed by our defenders, and we were breaking out quite nicely and causing them all sorts of danger. We kept hitting them hard early on, and of course it was inevitable that something would break, and of course it broke to Jacob Murphy and his great through the ball shot. I mean, he's a great striker of the ball, Jacob Murphy. And on 19 minutes, we got 1-0. And of course, that left no room for error with Arsenal. In fact, almost immediately, Arteta put on more attacking players to replace midfield players in the hope that they could break us down even more. But it didn't work. We kept solid. And it was a tactical masterstroke as far as I'm concerned. And it was good to see Sven Botman back, controlling things at the back and so supremely as he's capable of doing. One forgets how young he is. And yet on that young head, there's a very, very talented brain, because his football abilities shine through, and the whole team were giving it that all, fighting for one another, dropping back, and Gordon was dropping back, and so was Murphy. They were helping out the defence when it was necessary, but still had the energy and the skill to go forward. So we've got a 1-0 lead, and we go to half time with that 1-0 lead, and again we're everybody's biting their nails a little bit because they don't want Arsenal to get back in it. Let's face it, when Arsenal are on form, they can be really, really dangerous. But they've showed nothing in this game so far to make me worry about it. And I don't think anybody else around me was worried. It was just a case of holding on. We're at Wembley, but far from holding on. Eddie Howe's obviously given the team instructions at half time, and again we kept breaking out and threatening when we could, and the two most dangerous players on the pitch were Gordon and Isak, who were giving Arsenal all sorts of headaches. And it was no surprise when Isak put the ball in the back of the net, but unfortunately was given offside by VAR. But that didn't stop. We kept pressing until 52 minutes. There was a breakout, and who should pick the loose ball up but Anthony Gordon, cut in from the left and hit it right footer into the bottom corner to make it 2-0, which obviously sent St James's Park into delirium, because there was no way Arsenal were going to come back and win the tie after a second goal. The fact that they didn't look like they'd get a one goal, never mind any more than that. So it was quite fascinating to be in the crowd. And of course, I like crowd humour. And I if there was a chant of the year for me, because it was spontaneous, it was when after the second goal and Arteta was getting all upset on the touchline like he does, and the crowd started to sing, "It must be the ball, Arteta, it must be the ball," because he'd been blaming the ball after the first leg that they lost, and the crowd wasn't fixed. The interesting thing about that is I was sitting by 1892, and there's a group of people around me who very rarely do they sing, but by Jove, they all sang the "It must be the ball, Arteta," and really enjoyed it. So it was, that was sort of put the cap on things, and we just played the game out without them ever threatening us whatsoever. The only downside, if there was a downside, was that our old friend Havertz, when he was at Chelsea, he always seemed to have a go at Newcastle United for some reason, and he gets booked in this game as well for totally unnecessary off the ball stuff with Botman and Byrne. But that, I think, is just the impact of the result on the Arsenal team. So we end up with a 2-0 victory, which is absolutely incredible. Newcastle United always seem to collect in firsts. We were the first with the floodlight match, first with something else. And in this match, we're the first in the English Football League to hear the referee speak, because in this game, the referee was allowed to speak, and he was actually allowed to tell us what the screen had already told us, of course, was that Isak was offside. So there's a rundown. But what a victory! What a victory! And sending us on the possibility of greater things. Bearing in mind the 70-year wait for something is a one which really it's got everybody hanging on their breath. But the possibility of that's even more so. So never mind. We finish with Arsenal, and you would believe it, but next game is a FA Cup fourth round at Birmingham. Now Birmingham City are running away with their league, and regarded as something of a threat to whoever plays at St Andrews in these particular days. And so Newcastle are going to have to be on the metal to get a result at Birmingham and make progress in the FA Cup as well as the Carabao Cup. So we go to St Andrews, and we've got Pope comes in, Livramento, Target, Byrne, Kraft, Guveresh, Longstaff, Willock, Miley, Asula, and Wilson. And Birmingham have Peacock, Farrell, Laird, Cochrane, Carrier, Davis, Iwata, Leonard, Wright, Dowell, Anderson, and Stansfield. Stansfield's the most expensive player in the first division. Their centre forward, and being regarded as something of a star, and has already been selected for England under 21s and things like that. So the the pundits seem to think that we're in for a tough time in this game, and so we go with some looking over our shoulders to make sure that we're not on a banana skin in the FA Cup like we have been in the past. But the game starts with absolute 100 miles an hour, and we've hardly got kicked off before Birmingham, in 1 minute, Laird makes Birmingham 1-0 in the lead. Which really sets the hairs on the back of your neck on end. It's a good goal, but a poor goal from our point of view, because the left side of the defence was totally missing, and he virtually had a walk in to get that 1 minute lead. However, things tightened up, and the first thing I noticed, I'm sure others did too, that Will Asula was causing them all sorts of problems down the right wing, and for his pains was getting kicked all over the place. However, it wasn't long before his hard work paid dividends. He got the ball in the middle, and it bounced around like a pinball until it came to Wilson. And on 26 minutes, Wilson made it 1-1. Willock in the first half equalised on 21 minutes. That's right, so we went in at half time thinking 1-1, but don't think like that, because Wilson on 26 minutes gets this goal, which is set up by Will Asula, and right on half time, Iwata, their dangerous player, scores an equaliser. So we go in at half time 2-2, and it's a difficult match. The referee is supposed to be the Football League's top referee, and he's being very, very slack with how he's allowing Birmingham to kick Will Asula all over the place. And there's other off the ball stuff which he just lets slide, which in the Premiership, of course, would be picked up by VAR. Anyway, we get to half time 2-2, and breathe a sigh of relief and hope that we can repeat the dose in the second half, because it's not going to be easy. They're going to come at us. Second half, we put on Tonali, and Murphy comes on for Guveresh. Murphy comes on for Wilson. Shaw for Byrne. And then right at the end, Isaac comes on for Asula. Second half's like the first half, 100 miles an hour from Birmingham, and virtually kicking everything that moves. I mean, there was a couple of fouls, one particularly on Matt Targett off the ball, which in another game would, excuse me, would have seen a red card. And the referee just waved it off. However, if we're going to survive at these things, and even in the Premiership, we've got to be up for this. And we were. We certainly dug our heels in. And as I say, commend young Asula for what he did in spite of all the tough stuff. And then to settle things, on 82 minutes, Willock sneaks in at the far post and guides a cross into the bottom corner, and makes it 3-2. And you can almost hear the sighs of relief on the pitch and off the pitch. And you couldn't see any way that Birmingham were going to take the game off for now. In terms of the game, well, there were 5 Birmingham players booked and 4 of ours, which tells you some of the things that were going on and off on the pitch. Stansfield is a dangerous player, and anybody who's been watching the current under-23, England under-23s, can see the impact he's having on there. But he's certainly a player to watch. But he certainly got well watched by others. So a good 3-2 victory away from home, and another advancement in the FA Cup. Our next game is an away game to Manchester City, and the Emirates is now a very happy place for us to go, but we're enjoying a good run of form. And so Eddie sends Dubravka, Trippier, Shah, Byrne, Hall, Tonali, Guvaresh, Willock, Murphy, Gordon, and Isak. And City play Ederson, Lewis, Kushinov, Stones, Gvardiol, Nico, Guanduan, Foden, Mamouche, Savrino, and Haaland. And it's a baptism of fire for us. The City seem to be all over the game, and we don't seem to be anywhere, to be perfectly honest. For the first 45 minutes, began to wonder who turned up, and it wasn't the Newcastle we know. City really took the game away from us in the first half hour. 19 minutes Mamouche, 24 minutes Mamouche, 33 minutes Mamouche, hat trick, which was too easy. And second half we come out with we go in 3-0 at half time, looking pretty sad for ourselves. We come out with the second half with a bit more energy, but still McAtee on the 86 minutes makes it 4, giving us the sort of defeat we could do without, considering the what we have to face in terms of the Carabao Cup final, etc. But I just relax on the view that when this sort of thing happened, Eddie seems to have the team to rally the troops and get the lads back on song again, and we have to go home and pick up where we left off in the league with a visit of Nottingham Forest. 52 full house, 52,250 at St James's, and we play Paul, Livramento, Byrne, Shah, Guvaresh, Miley, Willock, Murphy, Gordon, and Isak. Forest have Sells, of course, Matt Sells, who used to be ours, Williams, Muralo, Mikakovic, Ania, Anderson, Dominguez, Gibbs White, Ilanga, Hudson-Odoi, and Chris Wood. So it's a Forest team that's doing well. It's winning a lot of games, and both home and away. And in fact, I think this is if they win this one, that would be their 5th on the road win. So they're certainly up for it. But we need to get back into some sort of form, and it's just unbelievable. First half is 100 miles an hour from both teams, and no surprise when Hudson-Odoi sneaks in at 6 minutes and gives Forest a 1-0 lead. But then on 23, a cracking ball on the edge of the penalty area drops at the feet of Lewis Miley, and he lashes in a right foot screamer into the top corner to make it 1-1. On 25 minutes, just 2 minutes later, Jacob Murphy picks up a through ball from the fullback, from Livramento, and races onto that and blasts in the second to make it 2. We're outplaying Forest now, giving them everything that we've got, and just on half an hour, it seemed inevitable that Anthony Gordon was going to score when Murillo, their fullback, pulls Anthony Gordon down, and up steps Alexander Isak to score the penalty on 33 minutes. And Forest are all over the place, completely lost. And every touch our lads have got, they're turning them in circles. And then hardly got time to kick off when Isak gets the ball again and scores a beautiful individual goal on 34 minutes to make it 4. So we go in at half time with a 4-1 lead after a breathtaking 45 minutes, no doubt about it. And the next thing is that we want to keep it that way, but it's interesting that when we come out at half time, Forest have not changed anything. They're the same team. We've done the same. The two same teams kick off second half, and although we're playing well enough, very slack mountain at a corner, and their defender Mitikovic on 63 minutes gets a header to make it 4-2. And gets a bit of a sweat on, but we don't seem to be in that much trouble. And on 76 minutes, Yates comes on for Dominguez. Yates, a player I really don't like. He's a player who will kick anything that moves, and seems to enjoy doing it against Newcastle. Has a history against us, and he comes on, and there's no doubt that he's on to try and create things, and he's given a lot of trouble. Young Anderson, our ex-player, is having a really good game, controlling their midfield from the centre of the park, spraying the ball around, and starting to give us some anxious moments, but nothing to worry about. But lo and behold, on the 90th minute, almost the last kick of the game, a beautiful ball from Anderson. It's picked up by Yates, who taps and almost taps into an empty net to make it 4-3. So having had a brilliant game, suddenly we instead of a what looked like could be a cricket score, we end up with a 4-3 victory. But the victory is the important thing, and that's what we wanted. There's the 3 points to get us back in league contention, because there are still possibilities in the league for us. So our next game is away to Liverpool, our opponents in the Carabao Cup final. And of course, everybody's guessing, including the pundits, is Eddie going to try anything out at Anfield because of the cup final? Is he going to show anything? Well, that's not Eddie's style at all. In fact, the reverse is probably true, and later on we'd find that that's the case. We go to Anfield with Pope, Livramento, Sharburn, Hall, Tonali, Guvaresh, Willock, Murphy, Gordon, and Wilson. And they have Allison, Alexander-Arnold, Konate, Van Dijk, Tamikas, Gravenberch, McAllister, Salah, Soberslai, Diaz, and Diogo Jota. Always a dangerous side. There's no question about that. Although throughout this game we give as good as we got, and if we'd taken chances, we might have had a score on the board, but we just couldn't get that final ball. So no surprise on 11 minutes when Liverpool take the lead. So Soberslai from a through ball by McAllister makes it 1-0. We go in at half time at 1-0. We come out and have a go at them in the second half, but they're just too strong in this game, and they're pushing us back as much as we're pushing forward. And it's no surprise on 63 minutes when McAllister makes it 2-0, and we try as we might, we can't get the ball in the back of the net. The game, it's a good game. The only strangely, the only yellow card is for Jacob Murphy, who, trying too hard, caught their defender as he was going through. But it was handbags. It was nothing spectacular about it. But it's still a 2-0 loss at a bad time when we got to face them in the cup final. It's more a morale thing, I think, than anything else, as far as I was concerned, and that we now have to come home to an FA Cup fifth round against Brighton, one of our one of our bogey teams, and it would be nice to make progress in both cups, but let's wait and see. We go with Brighton with a completely changed team. Dubravka, Trippier, Shaw, Byrne, Livramento, Miley, Tonali, Joelinton, Barnes, Gordon and Isak. Brighton come with Vertonghen, Lampley, Van Heck, Webster, Estimipian, Balibi, Hinshelwood, Minte, Rutter, Matoma, and João Pedro. A dangerous attacking side, but always a side that plays good football. And as I said, it's a side that we always seem to have difficulty against. And it's end-to-end stuff first half. And the only thing is neither team seems to threaten a goal. And then after 20 minutes, careless challenge by Van Heck, the Brighton defender, takes down Gordon, and up steps Isak to take the penalty on 22 minutes to give us a 1-0 lead. And it looks like that's where we're going to be at half time, except that just before half time, we're very slack from a free kick, and the ball's pushed through the channel, and young Minte, who we sold to Brighton, fastens onto it and scores a very, very clever goal to make it 1-1, and that's how it stays at half time. The second half, we're giving as good as we get, but can't produce that killer ball, the final ball, and we're struggling a little bit. And then we get to the final with 1-1, so it's extra time, and I think the most of the St James's Park faithful at home, we don't go to penalties, but that's likely. So we go into the extra time, and on we're giving them lots to think about, but unfortunately they bring on Welbeck, who has a history of scoring against us, and sure enough, on 114 minutes, he's left unmarked and he toe pokes the ball underneath Dubravka to make it 2-1 to Brighton, and we just can't get the final ball to get an equaliser or take it forward. So we drop out the cup to Brighton, which is disappointing, but we'll live to fight another day. We've got other fish to fry in a couple of weeks' time. So we then have home game against an away game against West Ham at the London Stadium. It's an interesting game considering we've got a cup final in a week's time, because we know it's not going to be an easy game at the London Stadium. West Ham always given us a game there. On the other hand, in recent years, we've been taking the points there. We've been showing that we can win in London, when in the past it was always a no-no. West Ham have Ariota, Cresswell, Kilburn, Tobo, Scarries, Alvarez, Ward-Prowse, Soucek, Wan-Bissaka, Kudus and Bowen. And we have Pope, Livramento, Trippier, Shaw, Byrne, Joelinton, Tonali, Guveresh, Murphy, Bonds and Isak. And first half's even Steven, but not very bright in terms of football, but neither side looked as though they would score. And it's a game which has 0-0 written all over it from a playing spectator point of view. The second half, we seem to pick up the pace a little bit and start to trouble them. And Willett comes on for Barnes and Wilson for Isak. just to change things around, and it certainly gives West Ham something else to think about. But still, neither team seems to be able to get near the goal. And then on the just after the hour, a nice through ball from Shaw, a long ball is picked up by Guvaresh, and he very cheekily chips the ball into the net over the top of the West Ham goalkeeper to make it 1-0, and giving us a really an interesting win at this time of the season, because anybody looking at the league can see that if other results go our way, we're not going to have a chance of winning a cup. We could also make a dent in the league as well. So a very important win, which was cemented by our captain with a beautiful goal by Guvaresh. And we go home from London happier than we might have been normally. We now come to the game of the season. I mean, the Carabao Cup final. If you believe the London press particularly, and some of the northwestern press, you'd make them think that why on earth are we bothering to go to Wembley. But the fact is that I firmly believed in this group of players with Eddie Howe, that they would give this game a real go, and the absolute interest in fans and supporters all over the world in being at this game and watching this game and supporting this game was unquestionably a fantastic thing. And so it was a game to look forward to. Wembley, of course, with I think it's 88,000 supporters, 500 at the game. The sad thing has been that they were, the club supporters were in the minority in some way, but no matter that, that's how many people were at the game. And I've got to say, some of the pre-match stuff filled me with great delight. I couldn't help but notice during the preliminaries when, well, so would everybody else notice, you'd have to be daft and deaf not to, that all the pre-match stuff was all about Liverpool and Never Walk Alone. Well, every time they try to sing Never Walk Alone, Newcastle supporters drowned it out with Braden Races or We Are the Geordies or all of that, and it really swamped their noise. And even at the preliminaries, when they played God Save the King, and the Liverpool fans booed it, the Geordie fans just sang louder and drowned out the boos. And I thought it was amazing. The other one was looking along the line as that was being played, Liverpool with only one Englishman in the squad at the time. Very few were singing. And yet here we were in Newcastle with an Italian and two Brazilians and others, all singing their hearts out for the King. And that made it very important to me. And the other pre-match thing I liked was that Gary Neville on off Sky came on before the match and said he'd just come down the tunnel and he'd never ever seen a team up for a game like Newcastle were that day. He said Guvaresh was going down the line of players and slapping them and geeing them up and telling them, that they're going to be legends and all that sort of thing, while Liverpool were standing there just passive, as though it was a rite of passage to them. So Gary Neville, before the game, was convinced that Newcastle were up for it in a much more systematic way than Liverpool were. And that's how it panned out. I can't remember seeing a side take hold of an important game like this the way in which Newcastle did. And Salah, was the talk of it all. What was he going to do? Well, he was up against young Livramento, who was put to left back because of Hall's injury. And well, I think Salam was still in the back pocket of Livramanto's shorts because he never got a kick, hardly got a kick. And added to that, Livramanto was instrumental in pushing things down that side of the field as well in an attacking sense. So it was a game which we clearly were up for. The first goal, just before half time, you could have written a script. Apparently, this was a training ground goal, if you like. They'd been practicing this all the week. A corner to deep into the penalty area for Big Dan Burn to head down, and the first time it worked really well. Newcastle United were 1-0 in the lead, and you could see the Liverpool heads looking at one another, wondering who should have been marking him. And it brought home to me this discussion the professionals have on the pundits have on TV about zonal marking for corners and free kicks, or do you man mark? Well, I think Dan Burn displayed that you neglect man marking at your peril, because if you do, that's what happens. And so we go in at 1-0 at half time. Absolutely incredible scenes amongst the black and white fans, and we press them immediately after. We don't seem to be able to push them further. But then 50 minutes, that man Livramento again down the left side, swapping passes with Tonali. Beautiful interchange between him and Tonali, and he ends up at the byline. And bear in mind, his left foot's supposed to be swinger. He puts the ball in, and who does it find but Isaac, who's pulled away from Van Dijk and given himself oodles of space to very deftly pass the ball past the goalkeeper and into the far corner of the net. A brilliantly engineered goal, but a brilliantly scored goal by a centre forward who knows his positioning, and left Van Dijk completely on his own, and without any hope of doing anything about it, except complain to his defenders about why he wasn't getting support. So 2-0 was on 52 minutes. As the game played out, it was inevitable that Liverpool would get one or two chances, and but we equally were going to get one or two more, and it was clear that the way we were playing, we weren't going to give this game away. Then, lo and behold, on 94 minutes, with the game almost over, with Liverpool substitute Cissé scoring, even then it had to be a very long VAR check to make sure it was a goal. But there was no way they were going to get anything else. It was quite evident that the game was ours, and rightfully so. We deserved it. It was just amazing. John Brooks was the referee, and Stuart Atwell on VAR. The 31,900 tickets for Newcastle, and we got the lot, and there's the boys with the cup. Anybody who thinks it was different in the past, well, it wasn't. In the 1950s, Wembley used to hold 100,000, and for the 3 cup finals in the 1950s, we got 12,000 tickets. So that's a lot different to what we got then. I felt inclined, needed to include some of this stuff about were party, because I bet the people who own the Carabao Cup couldn't have been happier with all the publicity they got from Newcastle United winning it. Although this was a local thing, it got national cover. It was just incredible celebration for the fans and for the team, and will live in our memories for a very, very long time. And for me, it's the start of something. It's not the end of something like the old cup days, because we've made our mark. We've got the the lump off our back. We're making progress, and the joy in that photograph and in the others is well deserved for everybody. And in over 70 odd years of supporting the team, this is the beginning of this is a season which could end up as the best season in my lifetime. After this victory, but great victory it was, and great celebration. However, the season's not over. We have an opportunity to make a dent in the league if we wish to, and we come home to a game against Brentford, and Brentford are playing some good football. 53,000. All sorts of rumours before this game. Would the cup be on the field and all this sort of thing? Well, I think Newcastle United did right, and they held that for the celebration, and I think that was the right thing to do. So Brentford come, we welcome them with a full house. It's 52,100, and Brentford with some dangerous players. Mbembo and the likes are always going to cause people difficulty. And in fact, he's a player rumoured that we would like in our ranks. Anyway, they come with Flacken, Lewis Potter, Pinnock, Collins, Vanderberg, Jenelt, Nordegaard, Sade, Yanulki, Mbembo, and Wissa. Very dangerous forward as well. And we've got Pope, Trippier, Livramento, Burns, Shaw, Joe Linton, Guvaresh, Tonali, Barnes, Murphy, and Isaac. And it's end-to-end stuff from the beginning. There's some dangerous through stuff from Brentford. With I like the midfielder Nordegaard. He's a dangerous player, and he puts Mbemba and Wissa through a few times. And thank goodness for the skill of Shaw and Byrne to keep them out. We looks like it's going to go 0-0 at half time, but lo and behold, just before the break, 45 minutes plus 2, 47 minutes, Alexander Isak breaks through on a through ball and crashes in a nice drive at the bottom corner of the Brentford net to make it 1-0 at half time. Second half's a repeat, end-to-end stuff. Brentford not giving in, they're having a go, and it's Mbembo causing a lot of the trouble. And on 66 minutes, unfortunately, a careless tackle by Dan Byrne gives them a penalty, and up steps Mbembo himself to make it 1-1. And we kind of were worrying that we're going to get a point out of this because they're playing well. But then we hadn't banked on our very talented midfielder Tonali. Gets the opportunity on his wrong side of all things to go deep towards the byline and smashes in what a lot of people think was a cross, but smashed in the back of the net to make it 2-1 at a critical time in the game on 75 minutes with 15 minutes to go. There's no way we're going to give this game away to them at that time and thing. So a 2-1 win, well earned, and a good game, a really good game, and a well played game by both sides. But Brentford are playing some talented football. Our next game is an away game to Leicester City, who by now, of course, are already relegated. They're in dire straits. So we have Pope, Livramento, Trippier, Shaw, Byrne, Joe Linton, Tonali, Guvaresh, Murphy, Barnes, and Isak. Leicester have Henneman, Thomas, Cody, Faze, Christensen, Sumari, Nodi, Justin, El Kanusi, Daka, and Vardy. It's without doubt one of the quickest starts we've had in the season. Within 2 minutes, the balls fell out to the right and played in field to be picked up by Jacob Murphy, and the ball's in the back of the net before we really catch our breath. And it's a dream start for an away side. The game goes the same way, and it's all Newcastle. Leicester have this young player Niddy on the wing, and he's causing some bother, but not enough to trouble us. But at 11 minutes, Fabian Shaw, as only Fabian Shaw does, notice that the goalkeeper's off his line, and Shaw's still in our half, and he tries a long range shot over the goalkeeper, over all the defence, to go into the net. Unfortunately, he hits the bar. But fortunately for us, Jacob Murphy's the only man that reacts, and we're 2-0 in 11 minutes after that, and Leicester's head's well and truly down. And then on 30 minutes, there's some good interplay, which leaves Ashley Barnes on his own in the penalty area with the ball in 34 minutes, and he can do no other than make it 3-0 against his old team. And that's how we finish at half time, 3-0. We dominate again in the second half, but very quickly Eddie makes lots of changes to give other players game time, and we don't score another goal, but we should have done. There were so many chances, it was unbelievable. But never any suggestion that Leicester would get anything out of this particular game. So next game is a home game against Manchester United. Always good games, and this is always going to be a full house. 50,252. I think that's about 8 off the absolute maximum. And a game which always creates lots of interest. Of course it does. And so we play Pope, Trippier, Livramento, Byrne, Shaw, Joe Linton, Guvaresh, Tonali, Barnes, Murphy, and Isak. Bandinet in goal, Vord from Manchester United, Lindelof, Madlu, Amas, Eriksson, Ugarte, Dalot, Fernandez, Gamacho, and Xerxes. Playing tidy football, but not getting any results at the moment because their new manager, the guy from Portugal, wants them to play a particular way, and it's easy to see a man on a galloping horse and see the players enjoying playing that way, but play that way they attempt to do. And the net result is, of course, is that because of Newcastle's high press, and they're trying to play out from the back all the time, it was inevitable that sooner or later they'd get caught. And exactly what happened. They get caught in the first 20 minutes, and the ball's played around and then played back into the penalty area. It lands at Tonali, who gives the goalkeeper no chance. We get a bit slack and allow Garnacho to come down the left side, the left side of our defence, and he gets into the penalty area and squeezes the ball past Pope's outstretched hand to make it 1-1 on 37 minutes. 1-1 it is at half time, but we should have been out of sight if we'd taken our chances. So immediately after half time, we get treated to a real screamer from Harvey Barnes, cutting in from the left and shooting with his right to make it 2-1. And on 64 minutes, Harvey Barnes again, this time just capitalising on the mistakes of them playing out. They play out, get caught by Guvarash in the middle of the park. He plays the ball through the middle. The quickest reacts Harvey Barnes, and he gets the third. And then same again with Manchester trying to play the ball out. They make the mistake of trying to play it out in front of Guvarash, who immediately takes it off Eriksson and waltzes through their defence to make it 4. It could have been a lot more, but don't let's be greedy. 4-1 win against Manchester United. It's not to be sneezed at, and it's starting to make our league position look really, really inviting. And our next game is a home game against Crystal Palace, and of course, it's bound to be a full house the way we've been playing. And Palace, to their credit from London, have filled all their places, so it's 52,500 at the game. It's Palace bring Henderson, Richards, Lacroix, Gehi, Muzo, Lena, Hughes, Mitchell, Sarr, Eze, and Mateta. And we have Pope, Trippier, Livermento, Burns, Shaw, Joe Linton, Guvarash, Tonali, Barnes, Murphy, and Isak. And well, this is another game that starts off at 100 miles an hour, and it's just almost unbelievable. I've got to say this is probably one of the best 45 minutes of the season for me. Palace, for some reason, their coach must know better than I do. They didn't press us at all. They just almost give us the freedom of the park. If you add to that we were doing a really high press, they were just engulfed by Newcastle players. So it was no surprise on 14 minutes when a ball out from the penalty area had been bobbing around for ages, came to Jacob Murphy, and he's a good hitter of the ball, and bang, it was 1-0. Then 38 minutes, and they're attempting to play the ball out and get caught by Barnes and Murphy and Isak surrounding them, and the ball's well on its way into the net from Isak eventually, and Gehi sticks his foot out, and it's an own goal, and it's 2-0. 42 minutes, just on half time, just before half time. Barnes again steals the ball from their midfield, runs through the middle, and it's 3. And then from a corner, just before the whistle goes for half time, who should sneak in at the far post but Fabian Schär to make it 4. So 4-0 at half time. And what a scintillating half of football where we just completely and utterly outplayed them. People were hoping, I think, for a cricket score in the second half, but by then Palace had changed a lot of things, including the way they played, and not sitting back and letting our high press rule things. But still on 58 minutes, Alexander Isak got onto the score sheet to make it 5-0. And a very, very impressive victory. As I say, one of the best 45 minutes, the most exciting 45 minutes I can remember at St James's Park. But more importantly, of course, is what it's doing to our league position. I think people are starting to work out now that if we can keep playing the way we are, we're not just threatening 3rd or 4th position, that if we keep winning, we actually could threaten Arsenal's 2nd position, which is something we would never thought of even earlier in the season. And bearing in mind that we've actually won a cup as well. So we go away to Aston Villa. They changing things themselves. They've got Marcus Rashford in their team, and all I can say about this one is that while we caught Palace cold, Villa caught us cold, I'm afraid. Watkins in 1 minute just ran away from us, and it looked like we might get back in the game when Shaw scored on 18, but Villa were just all over us. And Marazan scored second on 64, own goal by Dan Burn on 73, and then Onana from a corner made it 4. Having said that, the 45 minutes against Crystal Palace was one of the best. I've got to say this parts of this game were some of the worst of our season, because we just didn't turn up, which was very disappointing. Bearing in mind that the opportunity we had to make progress in the table, so we get over that and come home for a home game against Ipswich Town, who are already relegated, but an opportunity to look at how things were. There were one or two players, or one player particularly in the Ipswich team, their centre forward Delap, who's on loan, and being regarded as one of the best young centre forwards in the league, and openly being talked about as a possible backup for Isaac in the future. Anyway, we come to with Pope, Trippier, Livramento, Burns, Shaw, Willock, Guvaresh, Tonali, Barnes, Murphy, and Isak. And Ipswich come with Palmer, Greaves, Burgess, Wolfenden, O'Shea, Clark, Taylor, Morey, Johnson, Encap, and Delap. And it's a good game. Ipswich aren't lying down. They're still having a real go in the game, and look like it's going to be 0-0 at half time until very carelessly the defender O'Shea topples Gordon, and we end up with a penalty which Isaac scores on 49 minutes, and we go in at half time 1-0. In the second half, it's all Newcastle, and 56 minutes Dan Burns scores from a corner, and then on 80 minutes, a real peach of a header from Will Asula, who's come on as a substitute, and scores a superb goal. Of course, the other problem for Ipswich is that their defender, their attacker, who Johnson, who caused all sorts of problems, but caused problem for himself, got 2 yellow cards and got sent off. So made the second half really easy for Newcastle against the 10 men of Ipswich Town. But it was an important win to keep us making progress up that league. And we're now away to our bogey team, Brighton. It's a game we go with trepidation because we know we don't have a good history against them. But we go with Pope, Trippier, Livramento, Shaw, Burn, Willock, Tonali, Guvaresh, Murphy, Barnes, and Isak. Anybody that's can remember and is listening to where I'm reading the team out, we've now lost Joe Linton, and I think that loss of Joe Linton was very important to where we finished in the league, in my opinion. But nevertheless, that's where we are and how we got to go. And Brighton have Vertonghen, Welfare, Van Heck, Dunk, Espurian, Bataba, Hinchelwood, Minte, O'Reilly, Adriga, Welbeck. And it's a good game. Some good football, and we opening very brightly, and really could have had goals if we'd taken our chances. Jacob Murphy is causing them huge problems down that side of the field, and cross after cross going in, but nobody getting on the end of it. And of course, typical of a game like that, Brighton get a half chance. Who's it fall to? But young Minte, our ex-player, and he jumps through the middle of our defence to make it 1-0 to Brighton. And it's it just typical of a game where one side's pressing and the other side gets a breakaway. Still, we come out the second half and keep having a go, and number of chances go a begging. But then on, just as people are thinking it's going to be a 1-0 loss, on almost the last minute, there's a really silly foul on Isak on the edge of the penalty area, just inside the penalty area. And of course, Isak gets up himself and scores the penalty to make it 1-1. An interesting game of football, a lot of tactical stuff in it, but we got the point, which was the important thing, against a team that we've not got a very good record with. And our position in the league now is as I said before, is now looking. We're now able to think about the unthinkable, being not just in the top 4, but in the top 3, or even better. And our next game is at home against one of our challengers, Chelsea, and this is a game which is interesting on the fact that Chelsea have been winning lots of games, getting lots of plaudits for the way they're playing. So we know it's going to be a good game. And we have Pope, Livramento, Byrne, Botman, Shaw, Guvaresh, Tonali, Barnes, Gordon, Murphy, Isak. And they have Sanchez, Casido, Cucurella, Colwell, Chidaba, Latvia, Fernandez, Mudaki, Neto, Palmer, and Jackson. And it's an interesting game. It's end-to-end stuff on some occasions, and the fact that we're playing our press gives Chelsea the opportunity for breakthrough breaks. But we get off to a flying start with a superb manufactured goal between Isak and Tonali. Isak very deftly lifts the ball over a defender, and there's Tonali to lash the ball into the net to give us a 1-0 lead on 2 minutes. So what a great way to start an important game. And then it's some end-to-end stuff, both teams having chances or creating opportunities. But then young Chelsea centre forward, Jackson, commits what is the stupidest foul you've ever seen. He goes up with Shaw for a ball, and you can tell by the way he's looking. He's not looking at the ball, he's looking for Shaw. And of course, he plants his elbow right on Shaw's nose and gives the referee no opportunity other than to send him off, although it took VAR to tell the referee to do it. It's a silly, stupid thing, and of course puts Chelsea well and truly on the back foot. And we find it, because of the way Chelsea set themselves up, we're finding it difficult to break them down. In fact, they get 2 or 3 very, very good chances for an equaliser, but thanks to Pope and some good blocks by Shaw and Botman, we're holding them out. So it's heading towards 1-0 when just before the end, Bruno gets into the penalty area and picks up a loose ball and again glides the ball into the net rather than walloping it, and gives us a 2-0 victory, which is couldn't be better, because it, as I say, if anything that we're doing was one Chelsea behind us, and that's a good start. We're now into the last away game of the season, and another game against Arsenal, our fourth game against Arsenal, and it's a good game too. Again, same as the other games, we hold them and keep pressing them on breakaways, and the real truth of the matter is, remembering the game, that in this game we could have been 2 or 3 up by half time, but we just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. And we have Pope, Livramento, Shaw, Byrne, Botman, Tonali, Guvaresh, Murphy, Barnes, Gordon, Wilson, and Arsenal have Rea, White, Sabia, Kivor, Lewis, Skelly, Odegaard, Partey, Rice, Saka, Trossard, and Martinelli. And it's a good game. Arsenal are playing some good football, but as I say, by half time we could have been clearly 2, even 3 goals up. Second half's the same. They got most of the ball. We keep hitting them on the break, but a slack piece of work in the midfield. Excuse me, on 55 minutes by Anthony Gordon presents Arsenal with a ability to play the ball forward quickly, and falls to Rice, who hits us with an absolutely magnificent goal. The sort of goal that you want to win matches, and sure enough, on 55 minutes, Declan Rice does that for Arsenal, much to our chagrin, much to our disappointment. And we end our last away game and our 4th game against Arsenal with the first defeat by Arsenal of the season. And there are not a lot of teams that could say that. Although the Arsenal fans was loving it, saying how we bottled it and all the rest of it. Well, I don't think it was quite like that. Now we come to the final game of the season. This is an intriguing one, because the result of this game could hinge on being in the top 4, even maybe the top 3, depending on the goal difference, or not even getting European football if we don't. Well, certainly not Champions League football if we don't get the result we want. And well, if you're a Newcastle fan, that's not a scenario that you welcome, because you know fine well it's going to be difficult. And Everton come with Pickford, Young, O'Brien, Keane, Mikalenko, Gamer, Guyer, Harrison, Alcazars, Nende, Beto, and we have Pope, Livramento, Byrne, Bar, Shaw, Guvaresh, Tonali, Barnes, Murphy, Gordon, and Isak. And it's an interesting game. It's not the best football game, but we certainly given as good as we got. In fact, missing some glorious chances, particularly Isak and Barnes on particular misses that I remember. And we go in at half time at 0-0. And I've got to say, at that time, it had 0-0 written all over it as a game. That would have done us, but second half's the same. Nothing to shout home about. And of course, add to that the England goalkeeper Pickford, who plays for Everton, is playing out of his skin, absolutely playing a blinder. Anything that goes near the penalty area, he's out to get it and pick it up and take it away or intercept it, and really doing all the things you'd expect a top goalkeeper to do. And of course, he's enjoying every moment of it, that he's doing that all at the Gallagher end. Then on 65 minutes, just after the hour, a disaster when with very loose marking at a corner, and Alcaraz, the very clever centre forward, manages to sneak the ball into the corner of the net and give Everton a 1-0 lead, which they keep to the end. Well, it looks like we've not had a bad season because we've won a cup, but it looks like our Champions League hopes are going to end up with something less than that until, while the players are walking around the pitch after the match, you can see them starting to dance because the message has been relayed to them that Aston Villa, of all teams, have lost to Manchester United, of all teams, to give us our place in the Champions League next year. Giving us, I've got to say, after 70 odd years, Champions League, good run in the FA Cup, and a Carabao Cup win is the best season ever. Got to be. I mean, I keep saying to people that the cups in the 50s were the end of something. They weren't the beginning of something, where this Carabao Cup and our league position now give us something for the weeks ahead, and for the months and years ahead, actually, because it does all sorts of things, not just on the pitch and off the pitch, but financially and all of that. So we end the season with a debt of gratitude to Eddie Howe and his team for doing what they've done and playing with really a squad which people forget, and I don't forget. 9 of those players were with us when we were headed for the championship with Steve Bruce. In fact, most of them he wouldn't even play, and a couple of them he wouldn't even talk to, if we believe what we're told. And yet Eddie Howe comes in and not only saves us from that relegation, but takes us on to other things with the addition of some of the players that were brought in. So a fantastic season for everybody. Great celebration, reminding the country how we know how to celebrate. We know how to celebrate win or lose. I can remind you that when we lost in '76, the crowd from the Central Station up to St James's Park was just as big as the crowd that we saw the other day. So, and I know that's something that Malcolm MacDonald actually says he cried about, thinking, look at what they've done and we've lost. And I know Super Mac feels that quite strongly. So we've had a season to end all seasons, but let's make it just a beginning. Let's take it forward to lots of more parties and lots of more celebrations and show people how to enjoy their football.
Yeah, George. That is us up to date with those were the days. We are going to do a couple of specials. George has been beavering away in the background, so we'll sort that out. The FA Cup one, I think, will be the first one we'll do. But for now, George, that is all for today. We are going to have you on a little bit later this week for an Ask George, and of course, we'll have you for the Amigos and Professionals show on Sunday. But for now, have a good day, George. Thanks for doing it live.
You. Thanks for watching, everybody. Do appreciate it. Wouldn't be much fun without you watching.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them at www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at their website, mrvickys.co.uk. Email info@mrvickys.co.uk or telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2 crew driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. Hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach, all excursions included. Their website, unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And if you like listening to us as a podcast, you can go to Sports Social Podcast Network or to iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. If you want to support the show, then hit the subscribe button. It's free. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the little thumb up under the video, which is the like button, or click share to share to your social media. You can also join the channel on YouTube by hitting the join button for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to become an NUFC Matters member, you can go to nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. It's a £25 one-off fee. You get your pen, you get your badge, a key ring, you get your beer mat and your fridge magnet and your membership card, nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk for that. And we have an event early next year, 13th of February 2026, an evening with Beardsley, Waddle and Gascoigne takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House. To buy your tickets for that event, go to the box office 0191 243 1171 or Tyne Theatre and Opera House.uk.